The world was burning, and yet, somewhere beneath the echo of sirens and the hum of aircraft engines, another kind of fire was being kindled, the fire of discovery. In the shadow of destruction, men and women of science were quietly redefining the future. Their laboratories were not sanctuaries anymore. They were silent extensions of the battlefield. Every formula scribbled under candlelight, every wire soldered in haste, was an act of both defiance and desperation. Nations were not just fighting over land. They were racing for ideas, for the invisible power that could turn the tide of war. In Britain, radar operators strained to read the faint ghosts of enemy aircraft before they crossed the channel. In Germany, engineers refined rockets that could pierce the stratosphere. Across the Atlantic, American physicists tested prototypes that hummed with potential energy. War had forced science into overdrive, a collision between intellect and urgency that would reshape human destiny. The boundaries between invention and survival blurred. A new kind of soldier had emerged, armed not with rifles, but with equations. But for many, the cost of progress was measured in conscience. Scientists who once dreamed of discovery for its own sake found themselves building instruments of annihilation. They knew that their breakthroughs, celebrated in peacetime, were now the difference between victory and extinction. The moral weight of their work pressed heavier than the bombs they helped unleash. In this crucible of chaos, the human mind revealed its most paradoxical nature, capable of both creation and ruin. Transition. As the guns thundered, the laboratories grew louder, and the race for technological dominance was only beginning. Beneath the surface of the world's most violent conflict, an invisible network of thinkers and engineers was forming, a silent brotherhood bound by secrecy, intellect, and fear. In dimly lit rooms behind doors marked top secret, men and women redefined the meaning of war. This was not about brute force anymore. It was about information, precision, and speed. Science became strategy, and intelligence became the new artillery. The future was being drafted not in trenches, but on blueprints scattered across desks buzzing with electricity. In England, at Bletchley Park, the rhythm of war was measured not by explosions, but by the clicks of the Enigma machine. Alan Turing, pale and restless, guided his team through nights that blurred into dawns, deciphering codes that could save thousands of lives. Each intercepted message carried the weight of history. The invention of the bomb machine wasn't just a mathematical triumph. It was the seed of modern computing. At the same time, across the ocean, in the laboratories of MIT and Bell Labs, scientists were building radar systems that could see through clouds and darkness, giving birth to technologies that would one day guide planes, forecast storms, and connect the world through invisible waves. Every discovery carried the same paradox, the brilliance of the mind entangled with the brutality of purpose. In this era, creativity thrived under the pressure of fear, and collaboration blossomed in the shadows of secrecy. The world's greatest scientific leap came not from peace, but from panic, a reminder that progress often hides behind catastrophe. Transition. Yet even as signals pulsed through wires and machines whispered in code, another kind of energy was being born, one powerful enough to light up the sky or end it forever. In the barren deserts of New Mexico, far from the sound of sirens and cities, a new kind of weapon was being shaped. Not by soldiers, but by scientists haunted by their own brilliance. The Manhattan Project gathered the sharpest minds of the age under one veil of secrecy. Behind the gates of Los Alamos, theories that once lived in university halls were now being forged into instruments of unimaginable power. J. Robert Oppenheimer, the reluctant leader, stood at the heart of this vast experiment, a man torn between his devotion to science and his awareness of the monster it was creating. Every equation scribbled on chalkboards, every test conducted in silence, edged humanity closer to the moment when knowledge itself would become a weapon. As the summer of 1945 approached, the desert shimmered with tension. The Trinity test was not merely a detonation, it was a revelation. The explosion illuminated the mountains and burned the night sky, leaving the scientists frozen in awe and fear. Oppenheimer's voice, recalling the Bhagavad Gita, echoed across time. "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." In that instant, the world crossed an irreversible threshold. The line between progress and peril vanished in the flash of light that could be seen for miles. The triumph of intellect had become a confrontation with conscience. What had begun as a pursuit of discovery now stood as the embodiment of destruction. For those who witnessed that dawn, the glow was not victory. It was guilt, shimmering against the horizon. Transition. When the mushroom cloud rose over Hiroshima, it signaled not just the end of war, but the beginning of an uneasy peace, one where science would forever walk hand in hand with fear. The war had ended, but the world did not rest. From the ashes of Hiroshima and the silence of surrender emerged a new battlefield, one without trenches or front lines, but fought through equations, algorithms, and rocket fuel. The Cold War was not just a political standoff. It was a scientific duel between ideologies. Across oceans and iron curtains, laboratories became arsenals, and scientists, once hailed as saviors, became instruments of espionage. The future of humanity was now measured in megatons, data, and distance. In the United States, Operation Paperclip brought hundreds of German engineers and physicists to American soil. Men whose wartime inventions had once rained fire upon Europe now worked under new flags. Among them was Wernher von Braun, the visionary mind behind the V2 rocket, now tasked with propelling humanity beyond Earth's atmosphere. His rockets, once symbols of terror, became vehicles of hope, carrying astronauts toward the stars. Meanwhile, in the Soviet Union, a mirrored effort unfolded. Scientists raced to match every American breakthrough, from nuclear tests to the dawn of spaceflight. The launch of Sputnik in 1957 sent a shiver through the Western world, proof that scientific progress was no longer a privilege, but a contest of survival. In this era of paranoia and progress, innovation thrived in the tension between fear and ambition. Every invention was shadowed by the threat of annihilation. Every success tinged with anxiety. The Cold War's greatest irony was that in the pursuit of dominance, humanity achieved unity in progress, bound together by the same scientific dreams that once divided them. Transition. But for all the glory of rockets and reactors, one truth lingered, that every discovery came with a silent debt, paid not in fame, but in the burden of conscience. Decades passed, and the battlefields grew quiet, but the legacy of those hidden scientists refused to fade. Their wartime creations evolved, shedding their uniforms to become the invisible architecture of modern life. The radar that once tracked enemy bombers became the foundation for weather satellites and aviation safety. The cryptographic machines of Bletchley Park inspired the birth of digital computing. Even the atomic research that once terrified the world found new purpose in medicine, energy, and exploration. The technologies of survival had transformed into the tools of civilization, and yet the moral echoes of their origins lingered in every innovation. The Cold War's laboratories gave birth to a generation of thinkers who would reimagine the very fabric of society. The invention of the Internet, first conceived as a means of secure military communication, became the nervous system of a connected world. GPS, born from missile guidance systems, now guides the steps of billions. Artificial intelligence, once a classified concept in defense research, has become the mind of modern technology, both a marvel and a mystery. Humanity, without realizing it, still lives within the shadow of wartime invention. Every screen, every satellite, every algorithm carries within it the DNA of conflict turned into creation. But as progress accelerates, the same question returns. Can innovation exist without fear? History suggests otherwise. War, for all its horror, forced humankind to confront the extremes of its own potential. The story of modern technology is not just one of triumph. It is a reflection of our dual nature. Brilliant, yet dangerous. Creative, yet destructive. The hidden scientists of war may have vanished into history, but their voices still echo in every signal, every machine, and every heartbeat of the modern age.